Welcome back to You Know What You Know. Back with another episode today. Today I'm going to be doing my NFL superlatives, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year. Um, yeah, man, pretty simple. I don't know where I'm going to start exactly yet. I'm going to probably save the MVP for last. I'm just going to start from the bottom, work my way up. So let's just start with something simple and quick. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I put three candidates for each award. I just wanted to put three just to, at least acknowledge the people that came close and, like acknowledge that there was a race for certain awards, even though some awards are clear cut, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I just wanted to include everybody who, had at least a chance to win the award. So yeah, let's just start with Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I'll start with. Should I start with from the bottom to the top, or from the top to the bottom? Should I start with the winner? Yeah, I'm gonna start with the winner. So my winner of the Defensive Rookie of the Year is gonna be Carson Schlesinger, linebacker on the Browns. I mean, pretty simple, man. He had a great year. He had 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections, 2.5 sacks, 156 tackles, 11 tackles for loss. He had a great season. He anchored one of the best defenses in the league. Anchored might be a strong word. Of course, they got Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. They got other players. But, when you're a linebacker, you're kind of, you're typically the anchor of your defense in a way. Yeah, as a rookie, too, really impressive. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a lot of Browns games this year. I mean, I probably caught a few, but yeah, man. I mean, I heard his name early in the season. Early in the season, I heard people talking about him and the Browns defense. And yeah, man, he had a really good season. So shout out to him. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Carson Schlesinger. He should win the award too. This isn't really. I don't think this is too close of a race. Second place, I got James Pierce, who actually had a really good season after starting off really slow. He had 10.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 5 pass deflections. He started the season off, I believe, the first 8 weeks. I think he had half a sack through the first 8 weeks, and the next 9 weeks he picked up 10 sacks. So that's really impressive. That's definitely really impressive. And yeah, man, I heard his name a lot coming out of college too. I believe he came out of Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not the biggest college football fan, but I believe he came out of Tennessee. I could be wrong. Don't get mad at me if I am. Um, yeah, man. So good season by him. Falcons obviously didn't have the best season overall, but they definitely have a lot of young talent to work with right now. And goes to show again, Falcons young talent. Number three, I got Xavier Watts, safety on the Falcons. He kind of went under the radar. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really hear about him too much until towards the end of the season. 5 interceptions, 96 tackles, 11 pass deflections. Pretty impressive. So, yeah, man. Carson Schlesinger, number one. Number two, James Pierce. And number three, Xavier Watts. Yeah, man. Looks like the Falcons might have some good young defensive pieces moving forward. But yeah, that's my Defensive Rookie of the Year race. And, all right, let's move on to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I got Ted McMillan winning. And I think this is also maybe not clear cut. There's definitely some players who had some good seasons who are in the race. But, I mean, Ted was really good this year. The Panthers were obviously much improved. I think he was a big piece of that. He reached 1,000 yards as a rookie. Always really impressive, especially when playing with, I don't want to say this like I like Bryce Young. I do. But obviously he's slightly limited at quarterback. He's really small. He doesn't have the strongest arm. I think he's a good quarterback. But, it's not like he joined some high-power offense and, some vet quarterback who can get him the ball all the time. Bryce got him the ball, but Tech probably could have even had a better year if he was on a different team, honestly. But yeah, he's a dog. Ted was great. I watched a lot of his film early in the year. He's just all around, just got good size, great hands, can run routes, go up and get the ball against defenders. Doesn't matter. He's kind of an all-around receiver. I really like his game. So yeah, I got Ted McMillan winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. In second place, I had Travion Henderson, who I think, a lot of people seen had a really good year. He finished with about 900 yards, 9 touchdowns, and he caught 35 passes. Yeah, he had a really good year. Definitely had some really good individual games. I believe he had 2 games with 140 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. Um, and I think he was a big piece of the Patriots turning around their franchise this year. Going from 3 wins to 14, or 4 to 14. I can't remember, 3 to 14. But yeah, he was a big part of the Patriots turnaround, and yeah, man, he had a really good year. He kind of started off slow a little bit, and then once he started getting worked in a little more, and Ramondre was out, he really started doing his thing. So yeah, at second place I got Travion Henderson, and in third place I got Colston Loveland, who definitely started off slow. I believe his first like 6 weeks he caught like 11 passes for like 100 yards or something like that, and then the next like 10 weeks he caught like 40 something passes for like 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he finished with 58 for 713 and 6 touchdowns. Really good rookie year for a tight end, man. Really good rookie year, especially when you did most of that in 10 games. Definitely a really good tight end, and definitely a bright future over there on that. Another young team, him and Caleb probably be a good little duo for a long time. So yeah, first place I got Tet McMillan, second place Travion Henderson, and third place Colston Loveland. On to Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year. Now this was actually really hard. There was like 5 names I really wanted to put in here. My winner, I got Mike Vrabel, and that's mainly because taking that Patriots team from 3 wins to 14 is just really impressive. Really impressive. I mean that a 1 year flip that big of a difference in 1 year is really hard to do. It's really impressive. So yeah, man, especially with a second year quarterback, rookie running back for most of the year. Your best skill position player is probably Stephon Diggs, who's, like I've talked about before, probably slightly past his prime. You're not working with the most amazing roster ever. Not a bad one, but to win 14 games on a roster like that is with a second year quarterback is pretty impressive. So yeah, I got to go Mike Vrabel, and I think the biggest factor there is the turnaround. The turnaround going from getting a top pick to being one of the top teams in the league this year. So shout out to Mike Vrabel. I got him as my coach of the year. And second place I got Mike Macdonald. McDonald, I mean, the Seahawks were a decent team last year. They won 10 games, and they go and win 14 this year, get first seed. So definitely impressive. Bring over Sam Darnold first year. Got JSN his biggest year of his career. He broke out. Definitely, Mike seems like a good coach. So far for sure. Probably has a bright future over there in Seattle, and he'll probably win some Coach of the Year awards. Moving forward throughout the years. But yeah, I just took Vrabel mainly because of the turnaround. Join a team that was, not great, and then get them to maybe or close to the first seed in the AFC. And yeah, of course the Seahawks were great this year. They were great. They were probably the best, team throughout the year, outside of maybe the Broncos and the Patriots, those 3. But the Seahawks were probably one of the more consistent teams. Yeah, man. And then third place I got Sean Payton. And I wanted to put Kyle Shanahan in third. I'm gonna give Kyle Shanahan a little honorable mention shout out because the Niners lost Brock Purdy for half the season, lost Fred Warner, lost Nick Bosa, Ayuk's not playing, traded away Deebo Samuel, CMC's coming off an injury, and they find a way to win 12 games and almost get the first seed in the NFC. So that's really impressive. So yeah, little shout out to Kyle Shanahan, but I gave Sean Payton third place mainly because second year quarterback, you win 14 games. Another team where I don't think the roster is, the most impressive roster. I think it's a good roster. Obviously, they have a great defense, and they're really balanced. But also, lost J.K. Dobbins for the year. That was, definitely a big hit. And then rookie running back R.J. Harvey, got him he had a good year. Got him a lot of touches. And, yeah, man, Sean Payton, he's a vet. Sean Payton has coached a lot of great teams. And I think this Broncos team was it was a kind of a mess about 2 years ago. So, quick turnaround for him. First seed in the AFC. Got to give him some credit. But I'm giving it to Vrabel mainly because of the turnaround. Especially for a franchise like the Patriots who have just 5 years ago they lost Brady and Belichick. And, Belichick wasn't 5 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like, Brady was 5 years ago, a couple years after, follows Belichick. And, yeah, when a franchise like that loses, one of its most legendary coaches or its most legendary coach and legendary player of all time, not even just that franchise, maybe the most legendary coach and quarterback in NFL history, and to, be right back at the top of the mountaintop 4 years later, 5 years later is really impressive. So, shout out to Mike Vrabel, coach of the year for me. All right, on to the next one. Comeback player of the year. I think this is pretty clear cut. I might have missed some players. You know, a lot of people get injured nowadays. I feel like it was hard for me to acknowledge every player that missed. And for to be eligible for this award, to me, you have to miss at least like about half the year or more, at least half, or something close to it. You know, 7, 8+ games to be eligible for this award. So winner of comeback player of the year, I got Christian McCaffrey. He played 4 games last year, came back this year, looked great. He had 1,200 on the ground, 10 rushing touchdowns. He caught 100 passes for like 900 receiving yards and I believe 7 more receiving touchdowns. I believe he had 2,100 total yards from scrimmage. So great season for CMC. Another great season for him. Workhorse for real. Most touches in the league. Continues to be himself, and just every time he's healthy, he has a great season every single time. So yeah, I got him as my comeback player of the year. I don't think that one's really that close. Niners, not only did he have those great stats, they almost got first seed, missing their quarterback all year, and key defensive players. Christian McCaffrey was a huge part in keeping them afloat. So yeah, shout out to CMC, comeback player of the year. Number 2, I had Dak Prescott, who missed about half the season last year. Came back, was in MVP conversations for probably the first 12 weeks of the season, until the Cowboys were eliminated from playoff contention. And then, you kind of can't really win MVP after that. Unless you have the most amazing statistical season of all time, you're not getting a chance at. And he didn't end up deserving to be in the MVP by the end of the year, but for most of the season, he was in MVP races. And, he just had another great year. He had about 4,500 yards. Completed about 67% of his passes, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks. Just another really good year for Dak. A lot of people were saying it was the best year of his career. I don't know if people just started watching him or what. He's been in the league 10 years. This is probably Dak's third best year of his career. This was not the best football he's ever played in his career. I've seen so many people say that. He had a really good year. 2023 and 21 were probably his best seasons of his career. One of those years, was it 19 or 21? One of those years he threw for 4,900 yards, and then one of those years he had 37 touchdowns to 10 picks, 9 picks, something like that. So, yeah, he's had some really good seasons. This was one of the better ones, not his best. But, yeah, I got him second in comeback player of the year. Missed most of the season last year, came back, was obviously the leader for the Cowboys as usual, and had a good year. And third place, I got Stephon Diggs, who, missed most of the year last year. Switched teams, came to the Patriots, got 1,000 yards. Was a big factor in helping them turn that franchise around. And so CMC first place, Dak second, Stephon Diggs third. All right, now on to a little more important awards. Not that those awards aren't important, but I feel like those are the ones people kind of forget about a little more than these ones. Defensive Player of the Year. This wasn't a race at all. We all know who the winner here is. It's Myles Garrett, 23 sacks, all-time record. On top of that, he forced 3 fumbles. He had 33 tackles for loss, which is insane. And he had 39 QB hits. So he got to the QB almost 40 times, which is about 2.5 per game. And he had 33 tackles for loss. So almost 2 times every game he's getting you behind the line of scrimmage. That's pretty crazy. So, and on top of that, all-time sack record, of course. Super impressive, man. I mean, Myles Garrett is on pace to become maybe the best defensive player of all time. I mean, he's probably already top 10. And, there's still some players ahead of him, of course. But he's on his way, man. He's on his way, and he has a good chance to break the all-time sack record. So, yeah, man, shout out to Myles Garrett. Another great season. And it's really impressive how he continues to be great year after year, even though the Browns are so bad. And such a bad organization, and the fact that he stayed is just insane. But he stayed, and he broke the all-time sack record. So, it's good to see that Cleveland has one bright spot. And it's good to see Myles Garrett still out there working. So yeah, Myles Garrett, I got him as my depoy. Second place, I had Brian Burns. Brian Burns had a great season. He's been a really good pass rusher for a long time in this league. He had 16.5 sacks, 22 tackles for loss, 7 pass deflections, and forced 3 fumbles. It's a really good year. Sucks that he's on a bad team, but it's really good year. Career year for him pretty much. Not much else to say about that. I mean, like I said, this wasn't much of a race, so not much to say outside of that. But great year for Brian Burns, man. Shout out to him. In third place, I had Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson in a tie because they play for the same team. They both anchored, the best defense in the league pretty much. They both had a good amount of sacks, I believe. One of them had 12 and a half, one of them had 15. I can't remember which had which. But, yeah, man, they had a good year, great year. Texans had probably the best pass rush in the league. Yeah, man, I was going to give one of them third, and I was like, you know what, why not give both of them the credit? I think they both deserve it. They both had a great year. So, yeah, Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. Pretty clear cut, I think. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. And so, yeah, on to the next one. Offensive Player of the Year. This got a little sticky. Because this is always hard to choose because typically the best skill player will, outside of a quarterback, the best skill position player will usually win this award, And sometimes they'll give it to a quarterback who might have came runner-up in MVP voting, because MVP has kind of turned into a quarterback award. We can all agree on that. And Offensive Player of the Year has turned into the Skill Position Player Award. But Offensive Player of the Year, that's the thing, is that quarterbacks get all they get all the glory. Quarterbacks get all the glory. A lot of them, you'll see quarterbacks win MVP and Offensive Player of the Year in the same year. We've seen who did it? Cam Newton did it. I believe Lamar Jackson did it. Peyton Manning might have did it. I'm not 100% sure, but I know Cam Newton did it. I'm pretty sure Lamar Jackson did it. I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning did it that year. He had like 55 touchdowns. But yeah, so my Offensive Player of the Year, I went with straight skill position players. I'm going to leave the quarterbacks to MVP. My Offensive Player of the Year, I got Puka Nacua. And I'm just going to say right now, second place, I got JSN. And this was a hard debate. This was a hard one to pick because, they both had great seasons. They had really similar stats, same amount of touchdowns. Both played on really good teams. They played in the same division. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a hard choice. I ended up going with Nacua mainly because I thought before I went and checked the stats, I thought Nacua had a lot more targets. He had 3 more targets. And he had 10 more receptions. So he did have less yards. Nacua had 129 for 1715 and 10 touchdowns. JSN had 119 for 1793 and 10 touchdowns. Now, 10 more receptions is a good amount, especially when you have about the same amount of targets. I think Nacua had 166, JSN had 163. Yeah, I mainly just went with Nacua because, he also missed 2 games. That was another big reason why I picked him. So I can only assume, you get 2 more games in there. He's going for 1850, 140 catches, maybe 150-ish, one high 140s, and 12, 13 touchdowns probably. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going to give it to Nacua. I think he was really impressive this year. He also led the league in first downs for receivers. He had 80, which is pretty insane. That's about, 5 a game? That's exactly 5 a game, actually. It was 17 games. Well, he only appeared in 15, though, so you could say that's like 6 a game for him. 6 first downs a game almost. That's pretty crazy. That's actually really impressive. But, yeah, and he averaged 107.5 yards per game, which led the league. And he's also the all-time leader in yards per game for a receiver right now at about 95, I believe, yards per game. He only played 3 seasons, so, that number will probably slowly go down, but still pretty impressive right now. Nacua's off to an amazing start for his career. And yeah, JSN, like I said, 119 for 1793, 10 touchdowns. He had a really good year. He had a great year, breakout year. I still think he was the best receiver in the league. But Nacua's stats are a little better. The first out, leading the league in first downs, leading the league in yards per game, stuff like that. I just think he was a little more of a factor in his team winning sometimes. Of course, JSN had a huge effect on the Seahawks winning. They won 14 games. Of course he did. I just think, Nacua and Stafford, they just have they're like the 1-2 punch of that team. And they carry, man. They really do carry some games. So I gave it to Nacua. And in third place, I had Jonathan Taylor, who I thought was going to win this award earlier in the year. I mean, the start he was off to was insane. He had 1585, 18 touchdowns. He also caught 46 passes for 378 and 2 touchdowns. Had a really good year, almost 2,000 scrimmage yards, 20 total touchdowns, which led the league for skill position players. And, yeah, just a great year for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, another player who, every time he's healthy, he's getting 1,500 plus every time. So, yeah, man, great year for all those players. There was a few players who right on the edge of this award, maybe like a George Pickens or a James Cook. They were definitely in the conversation too. Probably more, 4, 5, 6 in the race. But yeah, we don't got to get that deep into it. But I just wanted to give George Pickens a little shout out. Shout out to my boy. But yeah, so Offensive Player of the Year, Puka Nacua. And on to the MVP. So this is the one everybody's definitely been waiting for. My MVP race personally has been all over the place the last few weeks. I made a video saying Josh Allen had a chance to win it about a month ago with about 3 weeks left in the season. And I did believe that at the time. And then, just being realistic, quickly realized that after the next week, he had a mediocre game against the Browns, I believe. And he had a few mediocre games after that. As the rest of the season just wasn't great for him. And, he had a good year, but yeah, he just wasn't really a candidate at the end like I thought he'd be. But this one I'm going to start from the back and work my way up. So number 3, I had CMC. And some people might be surprised by this, but picking McCaffrey, I would have put Josh Allen third if he would have had some better games those last 3 weeks. Just wasn't really impressed with the last 3 games, especially against mediocre teams in the Jets and the Browns. But besides that, Christian McCaffrey, I said his stats earlier, he had 1,200 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, 100 catches, 900 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns. He had 2,100 yards from scrimmage, which was more than what he had in 23, I believe, when he almost won MVP, became third in MVP. He did have a lot more touches this year, though. I believe he had like 70-something more touches. He had 413 touches, I believe. I didn't write that one down, but I believe he had 413 touches, which is a lot, and he led the league for sure. His yards per carry was not great. He averaged 3.9 yards per carry. It was not great. But still, regardless, he was a workhorse. He put in the work. I think he was the main reason why the Niners were able to stay afloat like they were. I think he makes his quarterback's life a lot easier. He guarantees you at least 1 touchdown per game almost every year he's healthy. Yeah, man, I just think this is one of those cases where I really look at McCaffrey as, one of the more valuable players in the league. Not just like stat for stat, number for number, not just quarterbacks, you know what I mean? Just like you have him on your team and he's healthy, you're probably going to win 10 games. As long as your team is at least good around him. It doesn't have to be amazing. And if it is amazing, you'll probably go to a few Super Bowls like they did. You know what I mean? So, yeah, shout out to CMC, man. I got him third in MVP. Some people might think that's crazy. I think it's, perfectly fitting. Number 2, Matt Stafford. Now, this was so hard. This was so hard for me because I'm a big numbers guy. I'm a big stats guy. What do you go out there and individually do yourself, right? Not stats don't always tell the story. Sometimes numbers do lie. But when you throw 46 touchdowns, it's hard to not give you the MVP. And, Stafford he had a great year. He had a great year. He completed, 66% of his passes for 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns to 8 picks. Led the league in touchdown percentage, which was almost 8%, which is really high. He threw about 277 yards per game, almost 300 per game. Led the best offense in the league. At least the best passing offense. I can't remember if they were number 1 overall. Excuse me. But just great year, man. Career year for Stafford, especially at an old age. I talked about this in my playoff prediction video. I think it's so impressive that someone like him could, for one, start with the Lions. And then, get to the Rams, win his first ring, have a few injury-riddled seasons after that, and just keep coming back and just playing better and better and better. And, it's really impressive to me because a player like him, like I said, I said this yesterday, he could have went out on top. You know what I mean? He could have went out on top. He was already in his mid-30s when he won a Super Bowl. He had already been through hell with the Lions, you know what I mean? And he just keeps coming back, and he comes back with a damn near MVP season, maybe an MVP season. I'm not the I'm not the person who chooses the winner. He's not my winner, but and I wanted to pick him to win. 46 touchdowns is a lot, but when I get to the winner, you'll see why I picked him, and that is of course Drake May. Yeah, man. Listen, I live in New England. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm not too fond of the Patriots, all right? My entire life, I grew up with Patriots fans talking shit to me, saying this, saying that. I had to watch them win 6 Super Bowls. 6. Every year it was like, all right, finally, Brady's getting a little old. They don't have the receivers anymore. They don't have a running back. They don't have. Still went to the Super Bowl every year, and for years and years and years, it killed me. I hated the Patriots. I hated them. Couldn't stand them. So that just goes to say that me picking Drake May for my MVP shows a lot of maturity and shows that I can really be objective. Because back in the day, I would have been like, no matter what I really thought, I would have, no, Drake May not MVP. F the Pats, blah, 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 this and that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I got Drake May as my MVP. And the two main factors are, for one, the turnaround, from winning whatever they won last year. I keep saying 3 games. It could have been 4. It was something like that, 3 or 4. I should have wrote it down. But yeah, they won 3 or 4 games last year. Didn't have a great season. And his second season comes back and leads them to 14 wins. And then on top of that, being in his second season, being this young and being able to, making the leap he did this year was just amazing, man. It was amazing. And before the season, I said the Patriots would be good. I didn't think they'd be this good. So, yeah, I got to give Drake May his credit, man. He completed 72% of his passes, which is great. Great number. 4,400 passing yards, 31 touchdowns to 8 picks. 113.5 passer rating, which is really high. It's a great number. 77 QBR, another great number. Led the league in both of those, passer rating and QBR. Also led the league in yards per attempt and completion percentage. So, he led the league in so many major categories. I think leading the league in passer rating and QBR is a huge tell. Everyone wants to talk about the competition. I think as a quarterback, you play who you play. You know what I mean? You play 17 different teams. Well, not 17 different teams. You play 17 games. You're not facing 17 bad defenses. You know what I mean? There's not even 17 bad defenses in the league. So, just going to my point is that, you play who you play, and, NFL teams are NFL teams. This is an NFL team. There's 11 professional defensive players on the other side of the field. I don't care what their record is. I don't care what their offense looks like. You face some teams that might not have the best record. Doesn't mean they have a bad defense. You know what I mean? Drake May ain't facing the offense. So, you know what I mean? That record thing doesn't tell the entire story when it comes to MVP. Now, if you want to talk about the Pats as a team as a whole, that's a different story. But when it comes to the MVP, this is all individual. This is not, it's mostly individual. I want to say like 60%, well, 70% individual, 30% team success. In my mind. Maybe that's not how it's actually chosen, with the people who actually pick the winner of the award. But in my mind, I'm looking at mostly individual numbers, what you did, the impact you had. And, also, I say that, and Matt Stafford had 15 more passing touchdowns than Drake May. I think the completion percentage, the passer rating, the QBR, the yards per attempt is all really impressive. And, I didn't even say this before. I meant to say this before. My third biggest reason as to why he wins MVP is doing more with less. And one of my favorite things when it comes to awards like this. You have, and Josh Allen, I gave him credit for this too. Stafford doesn't get credit for this. He doesn't get credit for this because he has Kyron Williams, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. Devontae Adams led the league in touchdown receptions. He ain't caught one since November. You know what I mean? And Stafford has a lot to do with that. Don't get me wrong. But he's a vet. He has 2 all-pro receivers and a Pro Bowl running back. Drake May has none of that. You know what I mean? He has a former all-pro receiver in Stephon Diggs. He just came off torn ACL or Achilles. I can't remember. He tore something last year. Missed most of the season. He's working with Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. Is Austin Hooper even on the Pats still? I don't even know. I'm pretty sure he is, but I just said that name, and it's like, hold on, what team is he on now? But yeah, he's working with, a lot of average players. Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte. You got a young boy over there, Kyle Williams. These aren't Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So, the Patriots have a decent O-line. Like, they're not really, stacked anywhere. They're not really, you know what I mean? The Rams have been a really good team for a long time now. They have a great coach, proven quarterback, proven receiver. You know what I mean? Everybody's proven. Drake May went out there with nothing proven this year and made the most of everything. You know what I mean? Had the best season, put up some of the best numbers, led the league in 5 or 6 different categories. And to lead the league in passer rating and QBR is really impressive because those two things tell 2 different stories. And if they're both high, you're a great quarterback. So yeah, man, shout out to Drake May. I got him as my MVP. A few weeks ago, I had him almost out the race. I had him in third place, almost slipping from out the race because he got a little quiet. You know what I mean? He wasn't putting up great numbers. The Patriots were still winning games, but not in the same fashion as they were sometimes. Um, but yeah, Drake May for my MVP. I'm gonna go through all the awards again. Got Drake May for MVP, Puka Nacua for Offensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey Comeback Player of the Year, Mike Vrabel Coach of the Year, Ted McMillan Offensive Rookie of the Year, Carson Schwarzenegger Defensive Rookie of the Year. Those are my NFL superlatives. Um, Let me know if you guys think I forgot any awards. I don't think I forgot any. I can't think of one. You got the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I don't know how to gauge who wins that award. Yeah, man. I mean, there was a couple people I wanted to give honorable mentions for some of these awards. I didn't write them down though, so I kind of forgot. Offensive Rookie of the Year, R.J. Harvey. He had a really good year. I think he had 12 total touchdowns. His yards per attempt wasn't great, but he was really effective. He scored a lot. Shout out to R.J. Harvey. Um, that's probably it. Defensive Player of the Year. There was a few. I looked at Derek Stingley. He had a really good year. J.C. Horn had a really good year. I looked at some secondary players. The pass rushers are really the winners, though. They always are. They have the most effect on the game. Sacks have a huge, huge effect on the game. And Myles Garrett obviously was taking that award. Offensive Player of the Year, James Cook got a look. Of course, he had a great year, led the league in rushing yards, scored a bunch of touchdowns per usual. Yeah, that's probably it. I don't got Josh Allen was in the MVP talks. I had to take him out. Last few weeks didn't love what I saw, and yeah, so that's it, man. Drake May's my MVP, and yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in, and you know what you know.